All right, see a lot more people rolling in. We will begin with some quick introductions. So first, I will pass it over to Tristan. Tristan, if you could introduce yourself.
Hey, Marcella, thanks. Welcome, everyone. Very nice to see everyone joining today. I'm Tristan, co-founder and CEO at Castor, and I'm a former data scientist. I used to wish having something like Castor as part of the tool I was using on a daily basis. Didn't find any, so started Castor, and leading the customer side of things at Castor with prospect, sales, and customer success. Very happy to be here and to introduce new stuff for Castor and CastorDoc.
Thanks so much, Tristan. Arnaud, over to you for a quick introduction.
Thanks, Marcella. Hello, everyone. I'm Arnaud, co-founder and CPO at Castor. Prior to Castor, I was a head of data at Payfit, a scale-up company in HR, and prior to that, I was in data analyst, or it was called business intelligence at the time, and then data product manager in another tech company. And at Castor, I'm driving the product team, the product effort here. So that's why I'm going to talk a bit about the roadmap there.
Great, thank you. And I'm Marcella. I lead marketing here at Castor. I'm just going to be in for a bit at the beginning to tee up the agenda, and then I will be back on at the end for Q&A. So everybody definitely send your questions through. There's a questions tab at the bottom right corner of your screen. You can also ask them in the chat, and we'll make sure to leave time for that at the end, but you can ask them throughout. So in terms of what's in store for today, 3 big sections. One, you might have seen our new branding, and you'll see it throughout this deck as well. We're really excited about it, but we're not just talking about a new brand and a new look. We really have refined our vision as well. And so Tristan will be going over a bit about our vision and where we see CastorDoc going. Second, we are going to have Arnaud speak to the product roadmap and how that vision translates into the product and platform that some of you are familiar with and using already, and some of you might be interested in. And so you can get a look at what will be coming ahead. And then, as mentioned, we want this to be an interactive session, so please ask your questions, and we will get to as many as possible at the end. So with that, I will turn it over to Tristan to speak a little bit about the new CastorDoc.
Yeah, thank you, Marcella. Very, very excited today to introduce CastorDoc to the world. But before we jump into what's coming next, it's good and might be helpful to know where we're coming from, why we exist. And it was based on a simple observation from the last decades, maybe 15 years of data industry growing as an ecosystem. A few years back, when the cloud data warehouse, the cloud storage become accessible to the broad market, it became much more easier to store, process data, and we've seen an explosion of different tools to access it, to store it, to analyze it, to visualize it as well, producing more and more data assets, more and more insights, more and more dashboards, more and more tables. And that's where chaos comes from. That's where we come to a point where there's so much, it has become so powerful and so easy to produce and collect more data. Then now it's now even harder to navigate within everything that has been collected and done. That's where we've identified this, data discovery crisis, but overall data governance, where you need to understand what's going on in your data ecosystem. So that's what the big driver behind the chaos, and that's why we started out Castor, is trying to get a sense of what exists in my stack, how I can navigate, how I can get a sense of where things are, and overall get a better data experience. Not being lost and don't understand anything about what's going on, but just trying to get things a bit more simple, to be easy to understand and easy to navigate into. That's why we want to build a much better data experience. And we've identified a few pillars to make this data experience much better. The idea behind it is that all those technologies have empowered the data team, the data platform team, to do more and more from a technical standpoint. But at the end of the day, to get the results, to get the value out of data, it needs to be adopted by the business. Data teams are often evaluated on how influential they are to the business, how influential they are in making the business more efficient, more taking better decision based on facts and not based on intuition. And if you don't cross that line, if you don't get to the business, if marketing, finance, operation, logistic people do not use what is being built in that incredibly powerful and efficient data stack, you don't get the value. So we want to help improve that data experience to make the data even more valuable in most of the company. We want to help business people, again, all those finance analysts, marketing people that take decision to leverage the data to the best and leverage everything that is being done by those great tools on the technical side. On the next slide. So this is what we've observed at Castor. From the most trusted researcher, Forrester, Gartner, and more, we've seen those problems in the market. They are finding that workers spend 30% of their time trying to find the right information for their job. There's so much that has been produced, then just finding what's relevant, where you should start, is a nightmare and takes a ton of time. They've also found that 50% of the data leaders say that their team could be more effective in proving the value that they bring to the organization. They don't get enough adoption of data internally. They don't feel that they're influencing enough business decision, and they want to cross that line. They want to get more departments, more individuals, more team members to leverage the data that they're collecting and the work that they're doing. And finally, and maybe the most worrying, is 75% of the executive do not trust their data. The trust problem also comes from this proliferation of assets. When you don't understand, when you don't understand and find the data that you need, you cannot trust it and you cannot base your decision on it. So oftentimes, you rebuild something and you add up to the chaos. So those numbers are what we want to solve, are what we want to improve with Castor. Some of our customers have already leveraged our tool, and you can see a few of the logos there that are advanced and mature in their data stack and have implemented Castor. We're lucky to have those excellent input from those different users, and they've helped us build our vision and the next steps of Castor. One of the top themes that we've been hearing, that we've been collecting from them again, is that we want to get closer to the business. The value in data, the value in all of the data team that we're talking to, is when they get to the business. They get to influence, to empower business decision. And that's what all of our customer wants to do. We've seen it firsthand by being those data users, those data leaders, as Arnaud, and we've observed it in all of those companies. So we've been collaborating with them, learning, developing, improving our product to get closer and to get more value out of the amazing work that they're already doing with their modern data stack or with their data stack. So now I'm very pleased to introduce the new CastorDoc, the modern data catalog built for collective intelligence. Collective intelligence is because we want to leverage everyone's insights, every department, every individual contribution to the data stack, to the knowledge, to the data knowledge of the company, to be leveraged again in a trustworthy manner by everyone else. So it becomes very clear that Castor is CastorDoc now, still getting used to it, is an enabler of the collective intelligence of the companies that you've seen in the previous slide. This allows to bridge the gap between the technical users, the technical people working on the collecting, transforming, and setting up the dashboard, and the people taking the decision, bringing the revenue, working on the strategic decision that drive the business. It's important that everyone can contribute to the context, to the documentation, and to the insights driven by the data team. So we want to get away from the data silos. We want to replace the different architecture and build a centralized and collective hub for all the context, all the business context around the data that is collectively built in the companies. Although we've been always proving and moving in that direction for a while, we're excited to double down on that vision. CastorDoc is the modern data catalog for collective intelligence, built for everyone to use in the company. How we do that? So basically, we connect to the different source. We acknowledge that people work on different systems, work on different tools, and we want to get close to those tools. So we enable collective intelligence by thinking everything from those different tools, from what you are already doing, from where you're already working. We recognize that as a marketing person, you might not be familiar with all the data tools. So we want to stay and get familiar with those. We want Castor to be very intuitive, very familiar with the ecosystem you're already working with, whomever you are, whatever is your role in the company. Whether you're very technical or not technical at all, Castor should talk to you and should be designed for you to understand what you need to understand and when you need to understand. With both our AI features that allow to translate technical knowledge into more business-friendly knowledge, or the other way around, business-friendly knowledge to more technical knowledge, as well as our sync back that allows to push and get the documentation, the context in the environment you're already working on, we get even closer to all the different individuals in the company that leverage and use the data. So we emphasize this in 5 pillars. The first is a very intuitive user interface. So again, we want to get familiar. Castor is not a tool designed for the expert. It's a tool designed for everyone, and everyone should very intuitively start using and ramp up on Castor. Data catalogs, data governance tools have always been made for the few. We are the tool made for the many. And this intuitive experience, whether it's already in the tools you're using, in your marketing tools, in your CRM, in your data warehouse, in your BI tool, or whether that's in Castor in itself, it's extremely easy to ramp up, to understand the different concepts, and it look and feel very familiar to where you already are. Then we leverage AI to power data insights. So as I mentioned, it's a very good way to bridge the gap between the business knowledge and translate it into technical knowledge, or the other way around, understanding the lineage where if it can be explained with simple English, you can understand how the data is where the data is coming from and how it has been transformed, even though you don't understand the technical language that is used to transform the data. So we do leverage AI for such use cases, and more is coming. Arno will take over on this one. Accessible documentation. What's worse than a documentation that is not accessible, or even worse, that is not accessed? We want to make documentation available very easily, visible for everyone to leverage. If someone documents something, it has to be used. Otherwise, it's useless. Just like data, we push documentation to the different tools. We push documentation to be visible and accessible for everyone in your organization. Collective intelligence, obviously, as I mentioned, we want to make sure we increase transparency and collaboration. We want to make sure you can understand what other people in your organization, what your colleagues are doing, without pinging them all day long. You have to be autonomous and leverage what everything is being built as an asset of the company, collectively building the context and the insights of your company. And then metrics alignment. Make sure we build a single source of truth for all the metrics, a single language in the company, that everyone is talking about the same words, about the same concept when they're talking about different numbers. And we do that with both governance features as well as a visual exploration of the knowledge, the data knowledge of the company. You want to make sure everyone agrees, everyone understands where the data is coming from, where the metrics, how the metrics are being computed, and that everyone trusts them. So without further ado, I want to introduce our new logo and our new name, CastorDoc. So it's not a departure from our initial vision, but it's a very important refinement. We really want to stand for the business users, for the bridge between the technical data people and the business users that leverage the data to get value and to bring value to their company. That's why we've updated our look and feel to match this vision. So a few visual and to provide a story with our new look and new renewed focus. So this represents our entire evolution. You can see that our logo and new name from Castor to CastorDoc is a bit more mature, a bit more grown up. It's a better interpretation of the beaver tail. So maybe not all of you might know that our former logo was actually a beaver tail. That's a more grown up, more refined, mature logo for our company. The new illustration express the collaborative, the community, the data community that we want to build within each company, and the ease of making data accessible and understandable for everyone in the company. In short, we've set up CastorDoc with the freedom to grow through the data team, the governance team, and obviously the business. So you'll see our new brand in our website, throughout our app, our communication emails, everywhere we show up, whether that's in person at events or online, starting today, actually this morning, European time. And from now on, I will pass it over to Arnaud to speak more about the roadmap and the few product improvements that are going to be live in the coming weeks. Arnaud, over to you.
Thanks, Tristan, for the great intro of our identity change, I would say. So it's a good opportunity here to kind of remind everyone of what are, let's say, our stronger convictions, like what makes Castor different and what do we focus on. I think the first one really starts with a belief that everything is around business user adoption. It's the future, as written there, of successful data tools. We see as an end goal for any data category out there to kind of roll out to the business user. If there is no adoption, if there is nothing there, it's a big challenge. And why do we think that? It's when you think of data applications, right? It's about either helping driving decision. So with let's say a mix of data analysts and business user, or it's either building data products, right? With a mix of, let's say, engineering and product managers. And basically, there is this trend towards much more autonomy, much more empowerment that we've seen in other areas such as no-code tools or other areas as well, that basically enables the business user to go further with autonomy. And this is what we really try to achieve here. It means having autonomy on recurring operational analytics topics for business users. That's one thing. But this also means more time for data analysts and data practitioners to focus on complex, exploratory, proactive topics. So having the ability to be less reactive, but more proactive in what they do in a day-to-day. And this really goes back to kind of the trio of data with consumption by business users and kind of driving data to its business impact. Then you have data core users, data analysts, data engineers, and you have the governance teams. And our goal here is to make them collaborate as efficiently as possible. They need to. We've seen so many inefficient interactions, and I'm not going to go in quoting any, but I'll stop there. Then the next topic about our roadmap, of course, we cannot dig in before talking about that one is AI. Basically, we've seen so many markets innovating so quickly, whether it's CRMs with assistant bot, whether it's ticketing systems, any market basically is thinking about it at least. And we see that as an amazing opportunity for Castor for several reasons. Of course, as everyone, there is application directly in our product for the exact use cases we're trying to solve since the beginning of CastorDoc, right? But then AI is likely to create a new governance need, right? As we've seen more use of AI in the data environment of our customers, this is going to require heavier governance. And then the third piece, and this is extremely exciting on the team, for the team is we have at CastorDoc this structured metadata ecosystem about every single of our customers. And this can be leveraged for each of our customers to answer broader use cases than the original ones of CastorDoc. And so this is why the way we structure the team over there is we dedicated an AI team at Castor, an agile AI team who drives their own roadmap to ensure that we basically ensure the latest capabilities from AI into our product, and we think broader, we think further than what we originally thought about. And this takes us to this balance, which is also key for Castor, between, again, autonomy. And the second piece that is even reinforced by AI is confidence. Yes, you can have as many, and we did one. We brought to Castor the AI query explainer that basically translates in English that explains in English any SQL query you send to it. But you also need to have confidence in what you read, what you see in any data tool that leverages AI. And this is why in Castor we are kind of always trying to find a balance and improving both at the same time autonomy and confidence of business and data practitioners, business users and data practitioners. And so this is why you would see in latest releases, of course, we did AI query explainer. We're going to release quite a few other features as well around AI automated documentation and so on. But there's also things such as validating the AI content and reviewing it, as well as much more obvious stuff, such as surfacing data quality in CastorDoc directly to the business user so that they can know when they look at the dashboard if the underlying table has an issue or not. Tristan, do you want to take that one?
I can take this. The new features, the most exciting features that we've released recently, Castor AI with the query explainer and with the auto documentation of both columns and knowledge pages, business concepts. So leveraging AI to document, to get more business context around the technical assets that are tables, that are dashboards, that are transformation within Castor. Then the second one is the knowledge map. So it's a very visual representation of the entire knowledge and definitions of the company. So in Castor, we used to have a glossary in a list format of all the very important definitions of your metrics, of your entities, of your KPIs. As a simple one, we've released a much more visual way to interact, to navigate within it, to understand how each and everyone influence each other. And the idea is to drill down into the different definition, the different ownership of definition, and see the ownership, the definitions, and the underlying technical asset from a very visual way. The third one is teams. So we've always had a strong focus on the people aspect of data. You trust the system, you trust the data, but of course you trust the individuals, you trust the people of your teams, you trust your colleagues, you trust the individuals within your company. And since a few months, quarters now, we have this people page where you could see everyone's activity around data. So you could know what your colleagues are looking at, what are the dashboards that they are frequently using, what are the dashboards that they are owning, the one that they are editing. You can see who's writing which query, what are the important tables, and it has always been very central to Castor. Now we are aggregating this knowledge at the team level so that in bigger companies, in bigger, more complex organizations, you can understand what is relevant and what is important for marketing or for a group of individuals. And in the same way, you can trust it because if you know that everyone in the team is using it and you're part of the team, this is a very good insight in trusting the data. So you can really trust from getting that social knowledge. First, you can discover through the teams. So you can do that social discovery. I know an asset or I'm looking for a definition. I know it's owned or frequently used by the customer success team. So I'm going to directly look at customer success. And then I'm going to drill down into what are the definitions, what are the assets that this team is using. And also, obviously, you can trust it. If you know your CFO is looking at the revenue number, for sure, it might be a good one. Or if you know a particular team is heavily relying on a dashboard or on a table doing their work, you know that this is the table that you would need to leverage for a very similar use case. So team is very important, another piece of information, of evidence, of trust in the data. And the last one that is now out of beta is the sync-backs. As we mentioned, we want to get close to the business users. We don't want to change their experience in leveraging their tool, and we want to get as close to possible to the data that they're facing and the data that they're using. We've released a few different sync-backs. The most important one was DBT that was released early on. So we can push back the description and the metadata directly into DBT. We've released Snowflake, BigQuery, Looker, and Tableau as well. so that your definition that has been approved, that has been written, has been maintained, can appear directly on the dashboard or directly in the comments of your data warehouse when you're about to query. This allows to have the most important and interesting information close to your usual environment. You can benefit from Castor without needing to go in it. At the same time, it redirects you directly to more information if you need to understand the lineage behind a particular table or behind a particular dashboard. We'll have the first few pieces of metadata, but then you would also have direct link to the more complete documentation within Castor. So very excited about those features. Hand it over to you, Arnaud, again for the one to come. Those are live, but the one that we are working on are on this slide.
Thanks, Tristan. So again, on the same line of bringing documentation and let's say useful information to the business user, we're going to release in Q2, in the next weeks actually, a Chrome extension to search and surface metadata, let's say closer to the business, to where the business uses it. That's one thing. So it's going to be directly connected to Looker. Then we're going to enable data governance teams to identify any unused asset. And that's going to come out of the box of Castor thanks to a homemade report, automated, to identify unused dashboard, unused tables, and help you clean them. The third one is going to be key about knowledge. Knowledge in Castor, what we call knowledge in Castor is basically a dedicated documentation page that can be where you can document a metric, a domain, whatever. But knowledge templates empowered by AI are coming to Castor. That means that you'll be able to, based on your company industry, just a simple metric name, you'll be able to not start from scratch, have a draft and just completely adapt it to your business, and then link it to any tables, any Looker field, any Metabase or Tableau dashboard that you believe is key in computing it. The third one is going to be even still aligned with business user roles. It's about curating the experience to our end users. And we've seen, of course, the core users of data teams, and we must curate it for business users. So that's going to come early Q3. And then we have tag control, which sits in a broader intent that we have at CastorDoc, which is about enabling exploration of Castor through business sources. And if you're a salesperson, you know Salesforce, so you want to explore anything, any dashboards through the Salesforce point of view. And this is going to be enabled by Castor thanks to actually this tag control, where Castor will automatically tag any of your sources, any of dashboard using them, and you'll be able to navigate through Salesforce asset in CastorDoc. You can see that I'm not super used yet from the move to Castor to CastorDoc. I'm using both at the same time. Sorry for that. And last but not least, it's about scoping role-based access control. Is who should have. So it's curated content and role-based access control are kind of, let's say, two sides of the same coin, which is okay, but with different needs, right? One is about showing what is needed, and the role-based access control is about showing what is allowed, what or not showing what should not be shown, basically. And this is what we're digging into and going to deliver in Q3. And that's it.
All right. We have reached the Q&A portion of our time today. We have a few questions in the chat. Encourage you to ask more. But first up, question from Gaurav. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. How is the knowledge map cited? Arnaud, that one might be a good one for you.
How is the knowledge map, cited?
Cited.
In the sense, okay, this is where you'd see that you have two heavy French speakers with strong French accents, except Marcella. Would you mind giving me a synonym for that one, Marcella?
Sure. How is the knowledge map created and built?
Definitely. So it's created out of knowledge pages, right? We leverage the hierarchy between knowledge pages. Basically, you can see it as a. I don't know if you're familiar with Notion or Confluence, but you have, let's say, pages that can include other pages that we leverage to build the map. And we're going to extend it because we also have the ability to pin assets to have this hierarchy connected to, let's say, external links as well. And you'll basically have a way to navigate these. So it's a kind of and this is typically useful to build, let's say, your business KPI map as one example. A typical example is you start from revenue, how do you split revenue, and so on. So, or it can also be heavily used to build domains map. Okay, marketing, what is the marketing map in terms of objects? So, okay, you have a deal, you have an opportunity, you have different ratios, and you can map them and have just in one side the map.
Excellent. Thank you. And I will also encourage you to follow us on social and look out for the announcement tomorrow of our KPI map, which is the ultimate aspirational state for what your knowledge map can be when it's with your own organization and your own data in Castor. It's a really exciting content piece. So stay tuned for that and download it, and hopefully that'll clarify a little bit what that knowledge map will look like. Another question, do we support tag-based policies? And a follow-up on that around kind of integration and extensions of cloud data tagging functions within CastorDoc.
Definitely. So today we export tags from Snowflake, BigQuery, dbt, and we keep adding tag abilities. And basically this can be leveraged and going to be linked pretty soon to the team's ability as well. So we're kind of digging into. Go for it, Tristan.
Yeah, one thing that wasn't on the slide, but is one very important feature that was released as well, is the ability to link tag with the knowledge page. So typically, since we retrieve all the tags from your different tools and are able to even sync them back in dbt or in your cloud data warehouse, you can create a specific knowledge page, a specific documentation around the tag. And by linking the tag to its definition, you're automatically pinning all the assets that have been tagged this way. And then obviously you can use our metadata editor to bulk edit different assets, whether it's in your warehouse, whether it's in your dashboards, basically leveraging what has been done in your tools, building more in Castor, and even syncing them back afterwards. And the tag abilities, whether it's for policies, whether it's for domain mapping, whether it's for technical refresh frequency, for privacy, you can leverage all of that within Castor and tie that up to one specific definition and tag management page where you would see all the assets that have been tagged in a way that have been tagged with this tag. So indeed, we can leverage that as well. It wasn't part of the releases, but I think there's an article around it and a release note coming up soon.
So in one word, with this functionality, this feature, you can provide a meaning to a tag. You really provide a meaning to a tag, and so whenever you're on a table, you check it out, and you see this privacy. And I'm in the shoes of a business user here, or a new data analyst that joined your company, and they see that table and they click on the tag and they understand what the tag means, basically, thanks to this feature.
Exciting stuff. More questions rolling through. So next one is on unused asset reports. Would unused asset reports cover different numbers of dimensions, or would it be like a binary yes or no?
So the good thing with what we do today is that we compute usage over a time window. So we provide you this information, and you can extract. So the useless assets report focus on assets with no usage and no downstream dependencies. So it's more. I mean, it goes a bit deeper than pure usage because it also leverages the fact that other assets may be plugged on it. But then you have other reports that you can leverage in Castor today already, which basically give you usage stats, a number for every single of your assets. So if you want to go further and say, okay, it's not just all the ones that are unused and undepended on, it's also the ones that are lightly used that I want to dig into, then you would go to the next report with really similar information that you can leverage.
Sounds like a little bit more than a binary yes or no.
Exactly. Yeah, definitely. Sorry, not answering directly, but definitely. Thanks, Marcela, for recapping.
Excellent. So a few exciting comments on role-based access control. Could you speak a little bit more to what the details are of what our excited community here can expect from that new feature?
It's interesting. I'm curious about the excitement because we're talking about limiting access, which is the opposite of what a catalog is trying to do. We try to make people know what they don't know, but still, we're in a context, right, where you have finance teams that don't want anyone in the company to know that they have tables with salaries of every single employees, or that they have tables with, I don't know, any other financial sensitive information such as a cap table, whatever. On the other side, you have HR teams with similar sensitive information that can be actually the same salary band of every employee. And so you have these teams that actually don't want their tables to be discovered at all. And they still want to be able to navigate and to dig into it. But this is what kind of the challenge we're trying to assess here. So that's one pane. I would say there's another one, which is companies who are themselves selling the data externally, and they want an interface that they can sell as well, I guess, as a wrapping on their data, as a way to export their data. And there is, let's say, like a simpler need, I would say, that is companies that just want some data to be outside of Castor because they're way too sensitive. They don't want anyone to be able to exploit it, and that's it. So we're kind of digging into the optimal way to solve the three, but step by step, I would say.
Thanks. Wonderful. Next up, a couple questions on Notion, Confluence. What's the plan, and this might be a longer term plan, for expanding the presentation of the pages within Castor into some of these other tools that people consume business knowledge like Confluence or Notion?
You know what, Marcela, I'm going to do a live user research interview right now. Anyone for Confluence, just type C in the chat and put a C. Anyone for Notion, type an N for Notion, and then I'll prioritize based on the number of answers I have there for each one of them. There you go.
Fast for folks to come through.
Thank you very much. This is good. We've had an interesting discussion with one of Xavier, another co-founder. Okay, what's the focus? Thanks a lot. So, hey, it's a fair mix. It seems. Maybe Notion wins. We'll see. Thanks for that. I'm going to take a screenshot. So definitely, I mean, if you're talking to the business user, this is something we must consider. There's just one thing that we need to keep in mind is the way we build integration must be smooth. If you ask any, I mean, it's also a great way to roll it out, because if you land on a conference page and you have this toggle like this embedded with that asks you to log in, and you don't have a Castor account, you're gonna request a CastorDoc account. You're gonna request the access to the tool, right? So we do see it as a way to grow. We have William. You have both. Is that true? Congrats. It must be tricky migrating from one to the other. But yeah, so definitely it's a great way forward, and this is one of the things we're heavily considering.
Love some live user research. People are quick to jump in. So next up, another question, and I think that we'll have an exciting answer for this. Will we be able to add visuals or images and grids in knowledge pages?
Yes, and this is this month release.
Yes,
and
so we're all excited for rich text.
Exactly, rich text was a big move. We're migrating library. We now have a new one. We're ready to leverage it 100%. Can't wait to add many more things to knowledge pages. And it's not only knowledge, it's going to be in any rich text or any dashboard description, table description. You'll be able to add many more things in the next 6 months.
Perfect. Thank you. A couple other questions on knowledge, AI, knowledge map. So first question is, will we see the assets that are pinned in the knowledge map, with a follow-up of, or get a suggestion of assets to pin in the knowledge section, maybe even with AI?
Definitely. So recommendation, right, is helping contributors to write content. So of course we're going to help you start the description of your metric or of your domain and so on. But then enabling the pin asset search to suggest it is definitely a cool feature. So thanks for bringing it up, and something we consider as well. It's suggesting based on what you just wrote, what's the best recommended, let's say, asset to do it. But still, we need to keep in mind that a review is going to be needed, because in knowledge we push our users to write what they consider to be the truth, and like the source of truth for that company. So we'll push it all the way until the human, let's say, tick mark, if possible.
Maybe if I can add upon that more high level on the AI piece of Castor, and especially regarding the knowledge section and the more semantic aspect of what we are doing in Castor. We are uniquely positioned on the data ecosystem, having this access to all the metadata, all the activity of the different users on the different tools to see what's going on. Our truth is what people are using. We start there. That's what is powering our search, is the popularity of the asset. That's why by default, when you come into Castor in CastorDoc for the first time, will show up first is what are people using in your company? What are the most important assets from a usage perspective? And as a tool in the data ecosystem in your data stack, we're the only one having that overall view of what's relevant and who's using what. Leveraging AI, leveraging what we know about the lineage, leveraging what we know is important for your company because it's widely used or we've seen an upward trend in the usage of a specific asset. We'll be able to recommend more and more specific metrics where we see that there's some inconsistencies or there's way too many assets that leverages this specific definition. So both using our current capabilities, overview of the metadata, of the lineage that we track at the column level, and the power of AI in explaining the meaning behind it in simpler words is going to be a true differentiator and a true asset for Castor that will be the only one to properly address. No other tool is better positioned on this market than us to build this semantic and this knowledge around your asset, around your important KPIs, around your important measures on your stack. So indeed, it will be very, very exciting to combine what we've learned, the automation of the lineage, of the popularity of the usage that we get from your different tools, from all our connections, with, well, the opportunities that AI unlocks for us. So it's very interesting, and there's a few use cases that we tackled already, but going even further in a few months from now, being able to analyze the entire stack and the entire usage of the data stack as a whole for a company, we'll be able to showcase and guide users into what's actually relevant, where there's some chaos that needs to be fixed, and use AI to suggest and go even further in the governance of this entire stack. So it's very exciting to be in that position and having this overall view on everything data in the company.
I couldn't agree more, Tristan. There is, and also a huge product opportunity in the way we execute it, because AI and its conversational abilities make us not need to build a front end for every new interaction you may want to have with it, with your metadata. So it means that tomorrow, if you want to ask a list of dashboard that depend on two different tables that are in this schema used by that person and who have been edited 6 months ago, and whatever other filters, you may be able to get an answer. And it's just about us building the right set of systems to allow you to do it. So there's an amazing potential over there in creating your answers much faster by the CastorDoc team.
Great. A lot of exciting things to come. We have one final question. So if anyone else has questions, please ask them now in the chat. But last question is if there will be a rollback or undo function coming at any point for administrators for new contributions, and how we might think about that in general.
Thanks for bringing this up. This is interesting. So there are two places where we do allow that. The first one is going to be with column auto description by AI, where basically we're going to require an approval. So it's going to be kind of embedded in the feature that you'll be able to kind of reject new descriptions added by AI. That's one thing. The second thing is everything in Castor, there's a history for it. Every description added, there's a history for columns, for tables, for whatever, for dashboard description, whatever you can think of, there's a history. So you can put it back. And this is something, and you mentioned rollback, I think it's exactly what it is. It's not a blocker. It's not a before approval blocker. It's an after approval rollback, and the word is exactly that. There's one feature that we need to improve on, and we know about it, is the bulk editor. What there must be, we must add an undo ability on the bulk editor as well, and this is definitely on the roadmap.
Great. Well, thank you both, Tristan and Arnaud, for answering all of the questions, and thanks to all of you guys for asking them. Would be remiss to not do one quick shameless plug at the end. We are on Product Hunt today with our new rebrand launching. So if you are open to it, we'd always love an upvote. I just put the link in the chat. But pending any other questions, I think that we can close out for today. Thank you, Tristan, Arnaud, everybody in the audience. And if you have any follow-up questions, we are happy to answer offline. You can email hello@CastorDoc.com, and I will personally field those questions. So thank you to everyone. And stay tuned on social. We have a lot more coming this week, and we're really excited to share it with you. Have a good one. Bye.
Thanks, everyone.